It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is What Made the Cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Trajan Wealth brings you this portion of the program. TRAJANwealth.com. That's Trajan Wealth for all your trusted local needs in retirement. And Steve Bartle, our Ute insider for KSLSports.com, joining us right now. Quite a busy afternoon. Isn't this just what you're looking for? A late afternoon, Friday drop of the news. You can't say we didn't all kind of predict this style of it, and we were all kind of hearing the rumblings. But Steve, now that it's done, where do we go from here when you talk about the legacy that Kyle Whittingham is leaving and then what the state of the Utah program is going forward?
Yeah, I think obviously, take some time. We're all gonna take some time to reflect back on the last 22 years of Kyle Whittingham at the helm of Utah football, and he's 21 years. He's meant everything to the football program. He's brought national notoriety and respect to Utah football, and it's interesting. Maybe the most telling thing of his impact on the University of Utah. You can drive up to campus now and you see buildings and apartment complexes and all types of things. President Randall has plans to continue to develop the University of Utah into more of an on-campus institution, and a lot of credit belongs to Kyle Whittingham and the football program for this evolution of the University of Utah. A lot of success that the football program has led to a lot of important developments for the university as a whole, right? Utah's success on the field led to an invitation to the Pac-12, which obviously brought a lot of connections and relationships with other prominent programs in the West Coast, in the West that really allowed Utah to flourish as a university and as an academic destination. And that's only continued. And so, Kyle Whittingham has done so much. We talk so much about, brand of football and culture and identity and all of those things. And those things are going to continue on with Morgan Scalley at the helm. But what Kyle Whittingham meant to the University of Utah is so much more than just wins and losses. He transformed the university as a whole and allowed it to evolve into what it's becoming now and what it's going through now. And again, a lot of that is due to Whittingham and what he did to lead this football program to the success that he did.
Do you have any insight on when he came to this conclusion that he was going to make this decision, and when and how did he deliver this to the team?
Yeah, from what I've gathered the last couple of weeks, it's kind of been back and forth. If you've been following along, it sounded like, when the season ended, it sounded like everything was pointing towards retirement. A lot of people continue to harp on the fact that they believe that he wanted to continue coaching. And I do think that Kyle wants to continue coaching, or that he wanted to. I still think he has that desire in him. But from what I've gathered, I think the decision came last night. It was finalized last night. And from what I've heard, he informed the team at practice today that, he was stepping down and that Morgan Scalley was going to be the next head coach of Utah football following the bowl game. So that's what I've heard. But the last couple of weeks, like I said, it's been back and forth. He's staying, he's going, he's retiring, he's leaving, he's staying. It's been all types of stuff. And I think that continued up until, things were finalized last night.
Steve, obviously your thoughts kind of go to the long time that we knew who the head coach was going to be at this at the university going forward. We knew Morgan Scalley was going to be the guy for a long, long time. I wonder what the things are. What would a culture of Morgan Scalley running this team be? Obviously, he's going to be affected a lot by what Kyle Whittingham does. I'm interested to see what he might do differently, but what does he bring to the table? Not just being with the program a long time, but what are Utah fans going to get with Morgan Scalley at the head now officially at the University of Utah?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to learn about Morgan as he steps into this role, right? I think a lot of the culture and a lot of the brand of football, I think those things are going to continue on with Scally, the things that Whittingham instilled in this program, the toughness and all of that sort of stuff, I firmly believe that those are elements, distinguishing characteristics of the football program that Morgan wants to continue on at the helm. But I do know that Morgan wants to make his mark on the program, that he wants to potentially tweak some things and do some things differently, right? I know that recruiting is going to be a major point of emphasis for him. My understanding is he wants to beef up a lot of the recruiting efforts of Utah football. And so I'm interested to see what that looks like and what that actually translates to. I know that he has his own thoughts on what an offense should look like. And I think, this past season was a great season for Utah. And I think that relationship with Jason Beck will be pretty important. But I know that he understands that throwing the ball is pretty impactful in today's game. And it parlays into recruiting success. He's out there traveling to places, talking to recruits. He knows, what these recruits are paying attention to. And even something as simple as throwing the ball a little bit more could lead to changes on that front. But, I think a lot of the defining characteristics of Utah football over the last 2 decades are things that Morgan's going to want to carry on, while certainly, adding his own flavor to all of this as well.
If you look back on the legacy that Kyle Whittingham leaves, what is, as you look back on, I'm sure you're going to be writing about this. What are the things that stand out that he has accomplished that really stick out to you over this time that have left his mark on this program? Probably the most meaningful for fans that they'll always remember.
Yeah, I think for me, obviously, it comes down to making the most of the resources he had available to him and turning Utah into a power conference contender, right? The decade of football for Utah, as they made the transition to the Pac-12 and seeing the evolution of the program in those 10 years where, it went from bottom of the Pac-12 to the top within those 10, 12 years. And a lot of that is due, frankly, to how stubborn Kyle Whittingham can be, right? Yeah. The things that he's stubborn about led to a lot of success, and his consistency and all of those things developed Utah into, a conference title contender. And I think that is such a unique experience for fans to see a program climb the ranks like Utah did during that time. That's a unique experience to share with a program, to share with a coach. And so, Morgan Scally, I think, is absolutely the right man to lead Utah into this next era of college athletics and whatever it's going to end up being. But Kyle Whittingham, a lot of Utah fans are going to remember those 10 years, 10, 12, however many years it was in the Pac-12 really fondly, because we all witnessed a program scale, the mountaintop and get to the top. And I think that's such a unique experience to see it built from ground level to a champion is just something that I think is going to resonate with a lot of fans for years to come.
It's one thing to be the most successful coach in the program's history. There's a lot of legacy there. He would definitely, look at the guys who came before him and give them a lot of credit, and he should. I mean, there's no reason to I mean, the reason that Utah was able to keep stepping up coach after coach and just keep getting better and better, that demands another legacy right in front of it. Even if it's a short one with Urban Meyer, it still made a massive mark on this program. And so when you look at the long tenure here, and I think that let me see here. Did he end up, how many, is it 177 is the total, is that the total wins?
177.
177 in the career. 177, I've got it right here. 177 wins and 88 losses, okay? This is a guy who is not just going to go down as one of the best in Utah history. I think he's going to the Collegiate Hall of Fame, and you can't have a career like that without having something like that happen. But in the end, what are the things that now have to happen so that the program can get into 2025 and beyond, which is a wild era that I think there's going to be a part of Kyle Whittingham that he's not going to miss?
Yeah, I think obviously the big thing is just the continued evolution of Utah athletics, of college athletics, embracing what that is going to mean, right? With this new era, as things continue to trend more and more towards a professional model, when you're talking about a super conference and two super leagues or whatever it ends up being, when you're talking about collective bargaining becoming more and more of a prominent um, talking point in college athletics, with Utah taking on this private equity deal and what that means, I think you're going to need to have a coach that understands the demands and requirements now of uh, being more than just a strong head coach, right? It's going to entail a lot of work beyond the practice field and beyond the facility now, to really make the next era, to really thrive in this next era, because a lot of this is going to come down to financial support and resources. And I think that is an element where Morgan Scally, being younger and being able to connect with younger athletes and people of his age as well, I think that is something that Morgan can take the baton and really, it's really why he's the right guy to lead Utah into this next era of college athletics, because he can be that guy that can get in front of people and have a great conversation, strike up a conversation, and just be more of a forward facing type of presence and personality.
I think the transition that has been planned here from Kyle Whittingham to Morgan Scally is brilliant, and I think that it's going to allow for as much of a smooth transition as possible. So much respect for Morgan Scally and what he's done, and he's ready for this situation. And I'm really curious to see what this program looks like under his watch. I'm sure there's a lot of things that won't change, but there are some things that will. But obviously, he's got to make some decisions now that he's going to be the head coach about staffing. Obviously, there's a defensive coordinator position open, Steve, and I'm sure you're going to be all over that.
I mean, it made it sound like he's going to be applying for it. Hey, there's a defensive coordinator.
Well,
position
no. There's plenty of great candidates for that, and so Morgan's got some big decisions coming up. What are some of those decisions, and how much of the staff do you think is going to be retained? What are some of the immediate impact of Morgan taking over going to be in January?
Yeah, I wish I had the crystal ball to provide some predictions on that, but certainly starting with the role that he's stepping out of, and that defensive coordinator spot is going to be one that he needs to address early on. And he's got a staff that are fully bought into him as the head coach, and he's got four guys in Shaw, Ellis, Powell, and Swan that all have the type of credentials that are worthy of being promoted to defensive coordinator. I know that Swan is, he has experience as a defensive coordinator. He's got an extensive background at Weber State, where he was involved pretty heavily in game planning. I would look at him as the slight favorite in that race among those four. But again, all four of those guys have the sort of resume and credentials that if Morgan decides to name any one of them defensive coordinator, Utah fans will feel plenty optimistic about what they'll be able to do in that role. So I think Scally's got a good situation, on a good problem on his hands there with that defensive coordinator position. And then beyond that, I'm not too sure with the rest of the staff. Like I mentioned, I know that Jason Beck and him have a pretty good relationship, and the offensive staff, I know this group is really well connected. And so I'll be curious to learn more about that over the next couple of weeks. But the thing that I do know is like I mentioned earlier, I know that recruiting is going to be a major point of emphasis for Scally. It's an area that he wants to really beef up, and so I think that could lead to some changes there. But I don't know anything beyond that. So we'll learn about those things over the next coming weeks. I don't know of anything imminent beyond the choice that he'll have to make at a defensive coordinator.
recruiting outside of the program and also recruiting within the program, as they've been successful recently with the locking down Bird Ficklin. How important was that, and what can we expect internally, Steve, now that business has been settled? Obviously, knowing who your quarterbacks are going to be during this transition is massive.
Yeah, it's huge, right? And that's kind of what this month is all about. This month is all about figuring out, getting a better idea of what your next season's roster is going to look like. So, they're having conversations with guys pretty regularly, who's in, who's out. We've seen, a handful of players, mostly guys that have that served as depth this season, deep depth, right? Scout team guys, even. We've seen a lot of announcements on that front of guys entering the portal. But to get Bird locked in, I think is really significant, because not only do you get a young, promising signal caller, you're hanging on to him, but all indications point towards Devin Dampier returning to the program in 2026 as well. So you get to hang on to your two quarterbacks, where many people thought that was not going to be the case, that Utah was going to have to make a tough choice between one or the other. And it seems like all indications point towards both returning in 2026. That really gives Utah a tremendous starting point in 2026. And it also gives them a huge leg up in 2027, because Bird Ficklin is obviously being viewed as the successor to Dampier when his eligibility runs out after next season. So Utah's feeling really good about that quarterback room, and the rest of this month is going to be about figuring out who are going to be the guys around him, and what they need to address in the transfer portal when that opens up next month.
Real quick, Steve. Thanks for being available, first of all, because it's just, I know you guys are going through it.
Yeah.
You're trying to get the digital stuff going. You're also trying to put some articles online, I'm assuming, and just getting at all the angles. And so we appreciate you joining us for a little bit. There was it wasn't Pete Thamel, was it? Yeah, it was Pete Thamel who tweeted out.
Oh, Stuart Mandel
tweeted out, well, he's not retiring. He's stepping down. And sources say there could be, it was some reference to that there may be opportunities out there.
Could seek other opportunities. In your mind, do you look at that and go, that's absolute garbage, or maybe?
No, I think there is something to that. I think Kyle Whittingham has not fully come to grips with retirement just yet. I think there is still that desire within him to keep coaching. I still think that's something that he's feeling, and maybe eventually he comes to terms with what retirement is actually going to be. But I think as of right now, I think he made the decision that he felt was best, which was stepping down at the very least to allow Morgan to take control as head coach. But I think he's still coming to grips with actually being a retired person, and I think he still has that desire. I think success this season really helped to kind of refuel the batteries a little bit for him. And I think there is still a little bit of desire for him to continue coaching. So I'm curious to see what that could lead to. Maybe it's just a reference to him accepting that advisory role. But there is certainly at least a little part that I've heard that he still wants to continue coaching.
Not that there are any programs that are like this, but listen, if there was anybody in shambles out there, maybe with a huge program in shambles currently, maybe there's a possibility. I don't know. All right, Steve.
Someone to come clean up that mess?
Yeah. Hey, listen, we'll speculate on that another day. We'll celebrate the career of Kyle Whittingham the rest of the time and try to figure out what else is there. Steve, thanks for hanging out with us so long, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, fellas.
Thanks, Steve. Absolutely.
Great work.
Steve Bartle, Ute Insider, KSLSports.com.